Tonight, tensions with Iran lead to warnings of war. More on the fallout from the Saudi oil attack. And American voters focus on health care ahead of 2020. How the candidates hope to win them over. Plus, terrorists serving prison terms and then being set free. How the controversial policy could affect national security. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
Iran issues a new threat against the United States. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Jenna Browder.
And I'm John Jessup. Iran is threatening all-out war if the United States or Saudi Arabia strikes back in response to the oil field attack.
Yeah, this is new video evidence points to Iran's involvement. CBN News White House correspondent Ben Kennedy begins our coverage tonight. Hi, Ben.
Well, John, Jenna, while President Trump has stopped short in blaming Iran, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says no doubt it is them. Iran's foreign minister, however, claims that the evidence against the country is made up.
What would be the consequence of an American or Saudi military strike on Iran now?
An all-out war.
An extreme warning from Iran in the wake of rising tensions over Saturday's attack on Saudi oil fields.
I make a very serious statement about defending our country. I'm making a very serious statement that we don't want war. We don't want to engage in a military confrontation.
As Iran continues to deny its involvement, new surveillance video shows the missiles coming from that direction. To top that, wreckage at the attack site offers compelling forensic evidence against Iran.
As of this time, all indications are we have that Iran is in some way responsible for the attack on the Saudi refineries.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo calls the strike an act of war. In response, President Trump ordered more punishing sanctions on Iran while not ruling out military action.
There are many options, and there's the ultimate option, and there are options a lot less than that.
I'm glad we're going to impose more sanctions, but I think there's no substitute, in my view, for some kind of military response.
Our goal has been to deter conflict in the Middle East. We've said that repeatedly. The President said that. The Secretary said that. We do not want conflict. What we do want is we want for Iran to return to the order of the international rules-based order and to cease the malign activity that they've been promoting in the region and to get back on the diplomatic path.
Iran, though, ruling out any meeting between President Rouhani and President Trump. And in the meantime, senior national security officials met today to refine a list of potential targets in Iran should the president go in that direction. John, Jenna?
Thanks, Ben. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his country should not hold a third election. And with this week's deadlock vote, he's calling on Benny Gantz and his Blue and White Party to join him in forming a national unity government.
Benny, it's on us to form a broad unity government. Today, the nation expects us, both of us, to accept responsibility and work together. We cannot go to third elections. There's no reason to. I oppose it.
With more than 97% of the votes counted, Gantz's Blue and White Party is ahead with 33 seats to Netanyahu's Likud at 31. The election results will be finalized in the next few days.
To Capitol Hill, the House today passed a short-term spending bill to keep the government funded through late November. The move would give lawmakers more time to negotiate and pass more than $1 trillion worth of agency spending bills. The bipartisan House measure was approved with a vote of 301 to 123. The Senate is scheduled to approve it next week. Well, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi has a new plan to lower the price of prescription drugs. It would allow the government to negotiate with drug companies over the price of up to 250 medicines per year. The prices would apply to people both with private insurance and those on Medicare.
When you travel the country, the issue of the cost of prescription drugs is one subject that can make grown men cry. Just cry about not being able to deal with those costs, what it means, to the health and well-being of their families because of cost. The burden of out of control prescriptions becomes an issue that touches every family in America.
And the nonpartisan Citizens Against Government Waste has come out against Pelosi's new plan, calling it legislation that, quote, espouses the socialist view that big government knows better and should control every industry. And while the plan could pass in the House, it is unlikely to be approved by the Republican-controlled Senate.
Well, another 2020 White House hopeful has unveiled a new health care plan himself. South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg announced his $1.5 trillion proposal called Medicare for All Who Want It. His plan is more cautious than some of his rivals, allowing Americans with private insurance or Medicare to keep their coverage instead of being kicked off in favor of a Medicare for All system. The plan would cap premiums at 8.5% of personal income, mandate transparency in pricing, and limit out-of-pocket costs for seniors.
And with that, we want to bring in our political panel. Joining us are Anita Kumar, White House correspondent for the associate editor, for Politico, and CBN's chief political analyst, David Brody. Both of you, good to have you. We want to start with 2020. So Bernie Sanders, he is exploiting the enthusiasm gap for Joe Biden, and he posted this video earlier today. It was an interview with the Young Turks on Instagram.
Actually, I like Joe. I've known him for many, many years. The truth is, he is against Trump, in my view, not a strong candidate. And I'll tell you why. Trump, while, I may be defeating him in every poll nationally, this guy will have unlimited amounts of money. He's a pathological liar. He will merge government agencies with his campaign. So this makes him a very, very dangerous opponent. Joe will generate very little excitement. In order to beat Trump, you're going to need a massive voter turnout.
And Sanders questioning whether Biden can inspire that enthusiasm and the excitement that Democrats need to beat President Trump. Anita, your thoughts on this? Why now from Bernie Sanders?
I think he's seen himself in poll after poll flatlining. I mean, he's just in the same place while Elizabeth Warren, has gone up in the polls. We've seen enthusiasm for her, and he's just kind of stuck in the same place. So he's not at the bottom of the barrel. He's third in most every poll, but he just hasn't moved, and he needs to do something to kind of just advance himself.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of funny, a 78-year-old saying a 76-year-old is not bringing the excitement. This is what we've come to. But look, voters typically vote with their heart, not with their brain. I'm not trying to insult voters across the country, but it's true. It's about an emotional connection. And Bernie had it in 2016. Elizabeth Warren, I think, has it now in 2018. And Joe Biden, elect me because I'm the practical candidate who can beat Joe Biden, not necessarily an emotional, rousing message. And I think that's part of the problem here.
A new Fox News poll shows President Trump losing to every Democratic frontrunner, yet there is polling that shows that he is ahead of former President Obama at this point in his first term. Where is it? I'm sorry, I just lost my place. Myra Adams over at Real Clear Politics makes the argument that you should never question the power of the incumbency. Anita, David, does she have a point?
I do agree. I mean, remember, this is a president who said he was running for re-election on his inauguration day. He's been running for 3 years. Now, it's not showing so much in the polls, but he's gotten a lot of money. He's been fundraising. He's been out talking. He has the power of, we're seeing all these important issues going on. He's in the Oval Office making those decisions. So I do think there's something to be said for that. He also has the name recognition more than anyone else because he's president of the United States.
Mm-hmm. And here's the good news. The good news is that an incumbent president with a roaring economy typically wins re-election. Here's the bad news for Trump. He's not a normal president. And so therefore, all is up for grabs at this point. And also this idea that he is beating, or he's losing, to every Democratic frontrunner. Look, when it becomes a binary choice, Hillary versus Trump in 2016, the complexity and the dynamics and all of that changed because voters were kind of confronted with, okay, here's what I've got in front of me. Right. I think so to put too much stock in these polls, I think would be a mistake.
Well, we also need to know where they are in the specific states that really matter.
That's exactly right.
Anita, another big story today, the whistleblower case, reportedly triggered by President Trump in a phone call with a foreign leader. It's a very complex story. Help us to make sense of this.
Sure. Well, the intelligence community's inspector general got a tip or a whistleblower complaint that the president had talked to a foreign leader multiple times, and there was something there that he promised something. But we don't know any more than that. We don't know what leader he's talking to. We don't know what he promised, but it was so alarming to this person that they went and reported it. Now, what's going on, what the big thing on Capitol Hill is right now is that the Inspector General is supposed to be turning over that information to Congress, and they are not. He is not doing that. And so there's going to be a fight, a showdown between those two.
Anita, it's safe to say President Trump is an unconventional president. I think we can all agree. Can you talk about your strategy covering President Trump and his administration and how it might differ from previous administrations?
Good luck to you.
Yeah, with President Obama, you had one message every day. So you kind of knew what you were getting into. I know it sounds crazy now, 3 years later. You knew what you were getting into, and you kind of you had your days around that message. With President Trump, you just have to be ready for anything at any time. We don't get enough sleep, and we have to be watching his tweets all the time. So, I mean, I think the important thing is there's too many things happening all the time, and I know that I can't cover them all, so I can just do what I can do. I mean, it's just it's very different.
Yeah, and I think the challenge. Well, yeah, and I think the challenge is words matter, right? Especially when you're president of the United States. And reporters cover words. What does an official say? What does a president say? But with Trump, everything is a bit nuanced. Right. Everything is a bit kind of like, take the full paragraph and then you have to decipher what's there, and it's kind of like, Jenga to a degree. And so I think that's the challenge for reporters, to kind of get the Jenga part of it.
We got to leave it there.
Tough.
Sorry.
Yes.
David, Anita, thank you. Wish we had more time.
Thanks.
Registering voters in America. We'll explain why this Sunday marks a push to get people from the pews to the polls.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Come home to the Southern Gospel Station from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites. CBN Southern Gospel. Available now at cbnradio.com.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
The Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Hundreds of churches are expected to participate in a voter registration Sunday, the first ever event this weekend.
Yeah, the goal is to get Christians across America engaged in the political process. Jason Yates is the CEO of My Faith Votes, the group organizing Sunday's event, and he joins us now for more. Jason, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to share about Voter Registration Sunday.
Yeah. Jason, so what was the catalyst behind Voter Registration Sunday?
Well, you know, we've seen such an effort on both sides of the aisle of getting people out and registering. And in fact, there's National Voter Registrations Day that happens the fourth Tuesday of every September. And we said, you know, there's a huge population of Christians who are gathering on Sunday, not Tuesday. So how can we encourage and inspire people to get registered and participate in the election process by creating this day, this voter registration Sunday, and equipping churches to hold a voter registration drive, nonpartisan effort, but to get people out to the polls.
Jason, what about those who are already registered to vote? We know from previous election cycles, a lot of Christians end up sitting on the sidelines on Election Day. So how can churches motivate people to actually get out to the polls?
Well, one of the things is just by offering some technology through My Faith Votes that provides automated election reminders for every election from local all the way up to national. And so our toolkit that we've created for churches provides that tool that they can both register and sign up for automated election reminders. Or any of your listeners who want to get access to that tool can simply text I vote to 73075, and they can access that tool.
Jason, what do you say to people when they say churches should stay out of politics?
Well, our honorary national chairman is Mike Huckabee. I asked him that same question recently, and what he said to me is, do you do your dishes? Because if you don't do your dishes and you just turn your back on it, the stack of dishes are only going to grow, and the stench from all your dirty dishes is only going to grow. So what you got to do is roll up your sleeves and do the dishes. And I think that's a perfect analogy for what we are facing here. We can't just ignore it. We have to bring the good of our faith, the values of our faith, into the election process and the civic square.
Jason, we have a little less than a minute left. We're still over a year away from the 2020 election, so why is it important to get this push to register voters underway now?
Well, there's 80,000 elections happening this year. I mean, it's an off election year, but there's a huge opportunity at local elections this year to provide influence and bring the good of our faith. But next year, there's 100,000 elections. We need to start that process now. With primaries coming up, people need to be registered to vote in primaries as well. So it's incredibly important that we start the process now.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing about this upcoming weekend.
Thanks.
In California, combating homelessness is increasingly becoming a focus of the Trump administration. The White House says 47% of America's homeless population is located in California alone. One issue, according to the administration, a lack of affordable housing in the state. Although it's unclear how they hope to fix the issue, Housing and Urban Development Secretary Ben Carson says all options are on the table. He is calling on all levels of government to work together with advocates, nonprofits, faith-based organizations, and advocacy groups.
Well, you know, I am a Christian. I believe in the Bible. And there are a lot of verses in the Bible about our obligation to the poor. And that coupled with, you know, my own experience and recognizing that there is a pathway out.
And one option floated by Secretary Carson is using vacant federal buildings in California as homeless shelters. Well, coming up, convicted terrorists re-entering society after serving time. Why some are concerned about what this could mean for national security.
Are you suffering from feeling tired or worn out during the day? Can you not turn off your brain at night? You are not alone. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor, and I've partnered with the Christian Broadcasting Network, and we're going to bring you some unbelievable information that you can use tonight to get a better night's rest.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Protect Your Sleep today.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by a God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
An American turned traitor fights with Islamic terrorists.
And after getting caught, he spent 17 years in prison, but today John Walker Lynn and others will soon follow. The question begs is, how do we deal with this new reality?
CBN News national security correspondent Eric Phillips brings us one answer.
As more sentences are served and possibly completed, John Walker Lynn will be joined by other former radical Muslim sympathizers. And it's difficult for the public to imagine such freedom for anyone who would have a hand in 9/11 or any other terrorist act. But I spoke to one expert on how to go about bringing these people back into our culture, and what he had to say might surprise you.
The only things being allowed off the ground are rescue helicopters, police helicopters.
Many of us will never forget the horrors of 9/11. Nearly 3,000 people died from the work of terrorists living outside of our borders. We also learned some Americans worked with them in some capacity. John Walker Lynn, born in Washington, D.C. and raised in San Francisco, converted to Islam as a teenager. Lynn then traveled to the Middle East, trained with a radical Islamic group, and ultimately joined the Taliban, which has ties to al-Qaeda, the group behind 9/11. After his capture by American forces, Lynn was sentenced to 20 years in prison. He got out in May after serving 17 of those years. More Americans turned terror sympathizers will be released in the coming years.
Humans aren't light switches. We don't go on and off, right? We're not binary.
William Braniff is the director of START, a University of Maryland research center that uses behavioral and social science to study terrorism.
What motivates terrorist behavior, what makes terrorist groups more or less lethal over time, and then what can we do to prevent terrorist organizations from being successful?
Braniff says as Lynn and others like him re-enter society, their key to success can basically depend on you and me.
One of the things that we find from research, this isn't from my opinion, this is from research, is that one of the best ways to minimize violence and concerns regarding public health is to find a way to engage with these people without judgment. Really hard to do at an individual level, right? Not in my backyard.
And listen to what Braniff says he's heard from these former extremists about how they overcame their old belief systems.
No one could have beaten the hate out of me. It was actually love. It was actually people who were kind to me when I knew I didn't deserve kindness that planted this seed in me that I couldn't reconcile with my extremist beliefs. Once these people were kind to me, I realized that my hatred toward them was unjustified, and it ate away at my extremism until it was gone.
Former extremist Sammy Rangel helped start the nonprofit Life After Hate. He can personally attest to what Braniff is saying.
When we're acting at our worst and someone else can see right through that and still touch us with their own humanity, and it's enough to stop you in your tracks and wonder. I don't think that anyone is irredeemable. I don't think that anyone is beyond reach.
Johnny Spann disagrees.
It hurts. You never get over it.
His son, CIA Special Agent Mike Spann, was the first American killed in combat after the 2001 invasion of Afghanistan. He died during a Taliban prisoner uprising shortly after interviewing John Walker Lynn.
Yes, I do blame him for that, because all he had to do was open his mouth and say, I'm an American. You're in danger. I'm in danger. Let's get out of here. I would hate to know that he was living next door to me or any of my kids or grandkids. Do you put a fox in a chicken house and expect the fox to change his ways? That common sense ought to come into play here.
From a practical standpoint, Braniff insists former extremists or sympathizers will be closely monitored.
So I don't think that John Walker Lindh is going to get out of prison and have the time and space to engage in sophisticated plotting.
They tell us that, well, we're going to be monitoring. We're going to have a parole officer that's going to monitor him. They couldn't control this guy while he was in prison.
Braniff says there is no magic equation or surefire way to know if someone is rehabilitated. But again, he points to love as the essential ingredient in making it happen. And doesn't that reflect what the Bible says about love covering a multitude of sins? 1 Corinthians 13:13 says, "And now abideth faith, hope, and love. These three, but the greatest of these is love." In Washington, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Still ahead, get your tickets. The new updates for one of Washington's most recognizable landmarks.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religion he has, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
And finally tonight, after being closed for the past 3 years, an iconic landmark in the nation's capital is once again open to the public.
And the Washington Monument closed to update some infrastructure back in 2016. Today, the First Lady joined a group of 4th graders to officially cut the ribbon and reopen the 555-foot structure. The updates include some security measures and an easier way to get to the top.
What's new at the monument we think of most importance is the fact that the elevator is now far more reliable than it was when it forced our closure in 2016. We have redesigned the operating system. We've replaced all the major mechanical parts. So instead of having to have closures related to the elevator 2, sometimes 3 times a week, we look forward to opening tomorrow and moving forward for the foreseeable future without any issues.
And the Washington Monument is the tallest building in the nation's capital. Yeah, you want a good elevator for that, I think.
A good elevator ride, and have you gotten your ticket yet?
No, but I have been up before once. It's pretty spectacular.
All right, well, that's going to do it for tonight's Faith Nation.
Have a good night.